that this kind of incident happened within our midst. Number one, Mr. President, it creates distrust from among us 24 senators. Ibig sabihin, the next time around that we are going to have our caucus or executive session, hindi na ako basta-basta magsasalita. Baka mamaya, meron na naman maglilik sa media. So pangit po, 24 lang tayo dito na senador at hindi pa natin mapagkatiwalaan ang isa't isa natin, Mr. President. Number two, it tarnished the image of the Senate. 24 lang tayong hinalal ng buong Pilipinas at hindi pa natin mapagkatiwalaan ang isa sa atin na pwedeng nag-leak. If indeed, it was leaked by any member of the Senate. Kung ang nag-leak naman noon ay empleyado na nandoon sa loob, well, as a police officer, former police officer, Mr. President, I can vividly recall kung sinong nandoon sa loob. Dalawang staff ni Senator Angara. Mavic?
Oh, Attorney Mavic.
Attorney Mavic. At may isang kasama si Attorney Mavic na babae. So, apat silang nalaman ko na nandoon sa loob. Magprangkahan tayo dito. Dapat we have to made into account yung tao na responsable dito. Hindi lang na magsisente ng stern warning sa kanila, kundi the damage has been done. Lumabas na yung balita niya, nasira na kung sinong dapat masira, but I don't care kung masira ang reputasyon ko. Ang sa akin lang, ma-preserve yung ating reputasyon as a Senate. Hindi po maganda yung hindi tayo magkakatiwalaan dito. 24 lang tayo, Mr. President.
And the waiter staff, huwag mo kalimutan yung mga staff sa likod. Yung mga waiter din, yung nandun din sila.
Isama natin sa investigasyon yung Mr. President.
So well, if the chamber wishes, I can ask Senator Nancy Binay, who is the chairperson of the Committee on Ethics, to look into this closely, if it is all right with the body.
Yes, I support, Mr. President, I support the call of Senator Jingo Estrada that yung source nitong news na ito, if it is a politiscope, he has to be called before a hearing para malaman natin kung sinong source niya. At kung hindi siya magsabi ng totoo, I will be the first one to move for the citing in contempt of that media personnel, Mr. President. Ikulong natin yan kung ayaw magsabi ng totoo. Mr. President, this is not a laughing matter. This is serious. Filipino people are watching us right now. Sabihin nila, ganyan na pala Senado ngayon, hindi ba pagkatiwalaan? Sila lang nag-uusap, maglilik pa doon sa media. It's very dangerous, Mr. President. Very dangerous. Masyadong akong dismayado. Thank you, Mr. President.
We agree with the gentleman from Davao, and that's why after these proceedings, I will ask Senator Nancy Binay, Chair of the Committee on Ethics, to investigate the matter.
Yes, Mr. President.
After Senator, yes.
Mr. President.
May I move that the Senate Committee on Ethics conduct a hearing and invite the source of the news, Mr. President, so that everything will be cleared out.
Yes, we'll ask the majority floor leader to make the proper referral and motion.
Before we make the proper motion, Mr. President, may I just appeal to our dear colleagues to hear the sentiments of our
Other colleagues.
other colleagues. We have, Mr. President, from San Juan, if I'm not mistaken, Senator Jingoy Estrada is seeking the floor. I move that he be recognized, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague from San Juan, former Senate President Pro Temp, Senator Jingoy Estrada, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, yesterday we had an all senators caucus and we discussed lengthily the budget of the Republic of the Philippines. And just before we entered this august chamber, much to my dismay and much to our dismay, there were there was a news report that identified 8 or 9 senators, and there were names on that list, 8 or 9 senators who wanted to restore the confidential and intelligence fund of the Vice President and the Department of Education. And I wish to tell the people of the Philippines that there was no votation that happened yesterday with regard to the intelligence fund of the Vice President and the Department of Education. In fact, we had an executive session. And I do not know who of our colleagues who scooped or leaked our conversation to this media outlet. I have been a senator here for more than 10 years. And this is the first time that I encountered a scoop or a leakage. I do not know. I do not want to name names. This is a violation of our rules. And the majority floor leader will expound it later. Mr. President, we discussed lengthily for almost 2 hours the schedule, etc., of the budget of the Republic of the Philippines. We never touched or we never voted with regard to all the intelligence fund or confidential fund. In fact, we agreed unanimously to remove all the confidential and intelligence fund, not only that of the Office of the Vice President, including not only that of the Department of Education, but all security or civilian agencies na merong confidential and intelligence fund. Mr. President, nawala. I will just read. Sino mga pangalan? First on the list, Senator Robin Padilla, Christopher Bongo, Ramon Bong Revilla Jr., Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Jingo Estrada, Lito Lapid, Francis Tolentino, and Cynthia Villar. They are putting us in a bad light, and I condemn this. And I take offense on this. Nakalagay pa, Senator Pia Cayetano is said to be supportive of reinstating Duterte's confidential funds if she can justify the need for them. This is not true. And I hope Senator Pia Cayetano will agree with me. Yung mga Just for a while, Mr. President, hinahanap pa ni Senator Robin yung mga nakasulat. Mahina raw yung wifi.
Ano ba tayo dito? Converge, PLDT, Secretary, DICT. Naku.
Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if I may quote, Anis Cooper told this media outlet that Senators Sani Angara, Francis Escudero, Rafi Tulfo, Aquilino Pimentel III, and Risa Hontiveros are allegedly against the reinstatement of Duterte's secret allocation, which are lodged under the Office of the Vice President and the Department of Education. Mali-mali po itong report, Mr. President. And I think Senator Angara must not be included in this list. And among the offices, Duterte's allocation was part of the 1.2 billion in confidential funds that the House realigned to agencies focused on the West Philippine Sea. Mr. President, tumayo po ako rito dahil masamang-masama po ang loob ko. I really felt insulted. And I think my other colleagues here also felt the same way, Mr. President. And Mr. President, I stand before you and I want to make this recommendation, maybe to talk to this media outlet or to summon this media outlet and ask them who among us violated our rules, who among us leaked what transpired in our executive session yesterday. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Jinggoy. Before I recognize the other members, may I just like to put on record, I too am very disappointed. I have been a senator for 4 plus 6, 10 plus 2, 12 years, and a member of Congress for 9 years. And when we say executive session, we are bound by rules of both the House of Representatives and when I was in the House of Representatives and rules of the Senate when I was elected as a senator. Before I recognize the majority floor leader on the repercussions of violating that rules, I would just like to put on record as well that we had a healthy discussion. There was no voting that took place. There was a healthy discussion on how we will treat this budget, particularly on the confidential and intelligence funds. It's not fair to say that one group was for this and one group was for that because in the end, tama po sinabi ni Senator Estrada, we were unanimous in the committee report that the good gentleman from Aurora will be presenting today. We are in full support of his committee report.